Welcome to the Army Empire Podcast, your go-to podcast for insightful tips on investment strategies, entrepreneurship, and all things money matters. Join Bernard Alerte, your guide on this journey to financial freedom. Each episode will dive into expert advice, practical strategies, and inspiring stories to help you take control of your financial future. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned investor, we've got something for everyone. So get ready to unlock your financial potential and make your money work for you. And now, let's welcome your host, Bernard Alerte.
Welcome back.
Hello. Hey, Liz, how you doing?
Good, good. I see we have the wife again.
Yes, part two, the sequel.
Part two of our money and marriage, or marriage and money. Which one comes first, the marriage or the money?
Marriage comes first, yes.
Ding, ding, ding.
People always joke around, right? When you say the vows, like for richer or poorer, for sickness or health, right? So which one you think they pick, for richer or poorer?
For richer. Let's do this. We're talking about money. And listen, last week we got a lot of good feedback on the marriage and money and just bringing those two topics together because they're so important. And you shared so many great tips and ideas and things that we need to consider. Like you literally schooled us and we're like preaching there because there was a lot of things that we weren't thinking about. And even just hearing your wife's side of it was really
absolutely
the woman's point of view. So let's get this started, and we're just going to quickly just tell everybody that we want them to share, to comment, to like. During this particular episode, we definitely want you to post any of your questions throughout the time that we're speaking here, because at the very end, Bernard will be answering some questions. And now since the wife is here, she'll be mentioning the woman's perspective.
Absolutely
as well. So again, thank you all so much for joining us, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on Facebook. All right, here we go. Great. I have my pen. Where's my pen? Okay, here we go.
Yeah, there you go. Good. So where we left off is marriage, and it's a very controversial topic, and some people kind of avoid it, don't want to talk about. It's such an important topic to talk about because, like we said last week, a lot of people kind of focus more on the wedding, marriage, but don't think about the finances, everything involved with that, the mindset necessary to, like, you have to be equally yoked financially, also be on the same page, at least work to get on the same page. You may not be on the same page in the beginning, but there has to be a desire to get on the same page. So you know what? We're gonna work together towards this, and that's something so important. Like the money, we talk about the money moon. What about the money moon? That's something that's important to actually kind of look after. This is kind of you start beginning your financial life,
Yeah, so good. That was awesome. And the do's and don'ts.
Yeah, do's and don'ts, like we talk about, break bad habits. That's so important. That affects. Don't live beyond your means. People try to keep up with the Joneses sometimes, which it hurts a lot of people. And I think that's something you have to play your own game. You have to not look at anybody else, right? Because when you're trying to compare yourself to other people, that's the worst thing. I think what a lot of couples do, I find, they try to compare. Oh, this person has this car, this person has this person. What happens is you got to play your own game. You have when you compare yourself, you become miserable, And I think you're trying to get validation from people, and like we talked about, we joked around, like a lot of people spend money they don't like to impress. Money they don't have to kind of impress people they don't like. If you think about it, people buy things, you don't even like the person, right? And you're gonna buy something just to let me show my, right? And you get that car, like the car that you really shouldn't get that car, but you get that car, and for all of a sudden, what happens? For some reason, that car ends up driving the neighborhood, all the people that was giving you a hard time, right? And you kind of stop in front of the car, you kind of the car automatically kind of beeps the horn, right? And you get out the car, so because you're waiting for the person to come out to see you driving the car, right? It's things like that people do that kind of hurt people, families a lot.
I remember in this slide too, I think it was your wife who said something about financial infidelity with that don't abuse your credit.
Yeah. Absolutely. You have to be very transparent. I think that's something like my wife knows everything. I mean, I don't. There's not anything she has. Like, listen, and talk about bank accounts. A lot of times, someone asked me a question. Well, how about bank accounts? How should you set that up? This is how we set up. We have businesses. We have a couple of business accounts that we all have access to, right? And also, what I suggest, every marriage is different, right? Here's what I always suggest. Okay, you have a joint account together where husband and wife are together on a joint account, right? That's something that's important to either pay bills or everything goes in there to pay bills, right? And also you have you can have your own separate account. Like she has her own separate bank account for her, and I have my own separate bank account. But it's very as long as it's very transparent.
Mhm.
In other words, very transparent. Like I know,
Well, there's different situations. Like we're a blended family, so I came in with accounts that I had already, like the kids' account, my personal account to pay my bills, and then he had business accounts and personal. So when we got together, it was like, okay, so how are we gonna pay bills? Or we pour the money that we have in together, and we just draft it. Some people can't draft. Have an automatic draft, or you pay it as you get paid. And it was like I said, it was a transition because I was used to paying my kids' bills and stuff, their cell phones, and then it came a transition. Like, you know what? Let's put all our cell phones into one account, and then I just help pay because the kids had their own money. And then when they got married, they stood with us for a while, even being married. Then they eventually got their own with their husband. So it's everything's a transition. It's not like a switch. You get married, okay, now this is what we do. Like my daughter just called me. She said, "Ma, they've been married since May, but now since they're opening a business, they're like, Ma, we're opening a business account. It's both for our names. Now we just have a joint account." So it took time for that transition because then you have new bills together. You didn't, we had separate rent, mortgages. Now we're together, whether you start young together or, you're coming together after other, life, your life, in different blended or remarried or whatever. So there's different scenarios. But the point is, like I said, I always geared towards communication. So if a person's used to having their own thing, you got to give them time for that transition. You can't be like, oh, we got to do. No, you have to give the perspective of why I feel like I have to have my own, like he has, like, let's say if we want to do a purchase. Okay, as long as it's over 200, let's talk about it. Under 200, 100, we don't have to talk about it. As long as all the bills are paid, we're good. And we have our savings, everything is aligned. There's no reason why, we have to like, oh, no, you can't do it. Why? Because you're taking away money that has to pay for the rent or the mortgage or the electricity or the utilities. You can't do that because then you're doing infidelity. You're pulling money that's assigned for something else. That's where the conflict starts, when we start moving monies and stuff like that without communication, because we have a goal, right? Our goal was to have everything drafted. We didn't even want to look into our bank accounts. We wanted the utility, the mortgage, everything drafted. So we worked ourselves there. That didn't just happen. We the average person pays as the bills come, right? Well, our goal was to have everything drafted. Like we didn't want to see it. We want to make sure the money's there and then the money's drafted. That was like a goal of ours because we didn't want stress. So we have to talk about those goals. Like, babe, I don't want to look at bills. I don't want bills to stress me. So that's what we work towards that. And then we got that accomplished at some point.
Exactly.
So good with that communication. And then we have, speaking of communication, the wants and the needs. And this is kind of where we left off last week.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Wants and needs are different. You kind of, and it might be different for everyone, but you got to come together and you have to accept each other, but at the same time work together towards the goal. He's always saying, make sure things you agree on, like the bill is taken care of, that's taken care of, and at the same time, whatever is left, so let's go get something. Listen, I love shoes. I like shoes. I like buying. That's just me. I like doing that, But when I do, I kind of have for myself kind of reward and punishment. Like I say, if we hit certain goals, even though I can go and get it. See, I don't just get something just to get something. Even though I can go get pay a couple $100 a year. I could do that. But I said, you know what? I don't want to do that. I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to hit some goals. We're going to hit some business goals together, right? When I get some business, we agree on, listen, when I hit the business goal, I'm going to get that. And that's just me. That's something
that's the way we function.
Kind of motivate and things. And I don't pay full price for things. I make sure like things get on sale. I don't let my, and this is the reason it's so important to make sure, like we talked about one of those episodes, to make sure that you don't have your savings account, right? You move. I suggest as soon as you get money, try to move money as much as possible to your savings, to like high quality emergency accounts, right? Where you don't see it in your bank account all the time. Because when you keep too much money in your bank account, guess what happens? It comes very easy to what?
To spend it.
Spend it. But say, you know what, take it and just move it. So like forces you to want to what? Make more money, right? Like you don't see it, right? Like there's certain things I don't want to see. Like I don't want to know anything because
out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind. So those are the things that, and that's where kind of how can I say, like a relationship, like marriages, like couples, kind of like, because there's a disconnect between the wants and the need, right?
Awesome.
They're having totally exactly. Another thing so important: plan for tomorrow, today. Create a game plan of if something were to happen. You know, listen, and that's something that we don't like to think about, but it's just a reality. There's two things that are certain in life, which is death and taxes. We all gonna pass away one day. We just don't know when it's gonna happen, right? We can't avoid it. We can't avoid it. But the key is one of most of the time you're not gonna go together. Do you understand? Most of the time someone's gonna go before the other person. For some reason, it seems like the guy goes before the ladies. But I don't know I don't know why, but that's but that's a reality. But what's gonna happen? See that I see this conversation a lot of couples don't want to have. You don't have conversation. Something happens, God forbid. What are we gonna do to make sure that I want to make sure. Listen, if something happened, you as us as individuals, here's what the most important asset we have, we bring to the table is the fact that we make income for the families. Our income pays for everything, pays for the house, paid for the house, to food, everything, all expenses. So you gotta protect that. See, if something happens, God forbid, you gotta make sure that my wife's okay. I want to make sure, that my wife's okay. I wanted to make sure if something happened to me, God forbid, right? Listen, I hope the Lord allows me to live when I'm 80, 85, 90, right? But it may not happen. What if something happens, God forbid? I don't want to make sure she's struggling. I don't want to make sure that she has problem paying the bills, paying the mortgage. She's tough. Listen, I've seen so many families, and if couples understood, I think everyone needs to speak to a widow or widower to see how important life insurance is. How I've seen more families. I've never seen a family get devastated by having life insurance. I've never seen it. I've never seen, oh my gosh, we had life insurance. It's the worst thing we ever had. No, but I've seen a bunch of families get devastated by lack of life insurance. Devastated. Where if something happens, God forbid, and people, listen, there's too many things that happen. For example, you grieve. Not only you lose the person close to you, this person that you thought you were going to spend the rest of your life with. Right? And you're with that person, and unfortunately, something happens, you lose that person close to you. Now, you got to worry about how you gonna pay the bills. It's like you're suffering twice. And couples don't want to talk about. I don't understand why couples don't talk about. We need to take care of this. We need to make sure something happens. I want to make sure something happens to me, God forbid, she's okay. Right? She's okay. I want to make sure she don't
more than okay.
More than okay, right? More than okay, right? I mean,
it's funny. We've sat across couples, and I've heard a man say, "Well, if why should I leave her money so she could find another man?" I was like, "Why would I want another man if my man left me money?"
Yeah.
It's the mentality. I think about what we were talking about before. I think the way we grew up has a lot to do with how we enter marriages. Because like my father, we grew up in a house we were fortunate because we were one of the in the church, we were the only two people owned houses. Everybody rented, lived in the project. And my father would always teach the kids. He was in charge of Royal Rangers, which is a Boy Scout equivalent. And he would tell the boys, you got to save, you got to work. And their fathers were saying that. Their father was like, well, if I didn't leave, if my father didn't leave me anything, why should I leave you? And unfortunately, that's the communities that we live. Like, oh well, I fend for myself, so you have to fend for yourself. And
that mentality is so off.
It's way off. It's just terrible. Because I mean, if you think about it, listen, I've seen families. I've seen, how can I say, I had someone that changed my mindset. One of our good mentors, here's what happens. Like Ali talked about, people afraid if something happens. Like, to me, I was like, you can't be jealous. You can't be jealous and dead at the same time. You got to pick one. Pick something. You can't be dead and jealous at the same time. If you're concerned, and here's what I told you, if you're concerned that if something happens to you, that your wife is gonna go marry is gonna, then maybe you married the wrong person. Maybe that's not the person you trust. I mean, maybe you should have done more time. I'm fine. You know, I mean, listen, I want to make sure let me tell you what happens a lot of times. When you don't leave, and this is what I tell men, I have comments. Listen, when you don't leave, if you're the main breadwinner and she depends on your income, if you don't leave her anything at all, let me tell you what's gonna happen. The first thing you're gonna do, she's gonna have to find someone to take care of her, because she needs to maintain the life that she had. So she's gonna find someone else to take care of her. Then you're gonna have somebody else, very raw, raising your kids. And guess what happens? It may not be the best person. Why? Because they have to.
Desperate.
She's like, oh my God, I gotta find, okay. And that's what happens.
I gotta maintain my mortgage. I gotta maintain my rent.
But guess what happens? If you make sure she's okay, she can grieve. She's not gonna worry about finding someone else. And one thing that she don't have time, because she wants to. I'll make sure the kids are okay. Make sure everything's okay. She don't have to worry about. Let me tell you something. It's that helped me change. One of our mentors. She's very wealthy. Listen, she remarried, right? And to this day, she praises her husband that passed away. It's like, oh my gosh, he left me okay. She talks about him all the time. What he did, he made sure she was okay. She didn't have to worry about anything. Her daughter talks about him, and I'm telling you, this is what happens. Versus when you don't leave anything, guess what happens? You'll forgotten memory. After the grievance, they grieve, oh man, miss. You forgot. That's it. It's a reality. Why? Because the person has to kind of move on. So it's
it's the last love letter you leave.
Yes, it's the ultimate love. I want to make sure my wife and kids are okay. I want to make sure she's fine. I want to make sure she don't have to struggle. If something happens, yeah, she gonna mourn, but she don't have to worry about things. That's just me. Maybe that's my ego. I want to make sure she's okay.
Listen, right? You're not sugarcoating. You guys are not sugarcoating anything tonight. You're not sugarcoating. You're being very direct and very raw. And I agree with what you said. I think that's the biggest advice you can give anyone is sit down and have a conversation with the widow.
Yes, do. And you see how powerful, how much they hurt. And also, I want to make sure that when she looks at a bank account, there's a lot of commas there. She knows who did it. She knows, right? The kids know, hey,
that was him.
It was him.
No, Dad did that.
And that's so important. Also, that's so important. So, I mean, the best thing to have, like we talked about in the past episode, term life insurance is the best because it allows you to have the most coverage for the dollar, which is important. The second thing is a will. A will. This is conversations that.
I'll think about that.
Oh my gosh, this is something that's not talked about, and this is something so important that's very neglected. I think episode 4 we talk about the power of probate, how it affects families. You gotta have a will. If you're married, you gotta have a will set up. No matter how young, it doesn't matter. Have a will set up. Talk about your wishes. Talk about if something happens, and you need to update as let's say if you get a house and you have kids, you need to update, move. You need to update the wills over and.
Yeah, we from New York, we came here. Now we have a house. So we had to restructure, update the wills. My kids were older. So now Sophia wasn't a baby no more. So what if something happens to both of us? Where would Sophia go? She's my youngest. She's our youngest, the 13-year-old. We have a 21, 26, 28. And they're already adults, you understand? But I had to put them as guardians if God forbid something happens to us because our parents are older. So they wouldn't be able to take care of Sophia. She's still a minor. So when you have minors, you still have to make sure that that is taken care of.
Yes.
And is updated. And we have a family meeting, and I gave them a copy of that will so that they know this is our wishes. This is what's supposed to happen. And even our jewelry, our possessions, our assets, they know
anything. Put everything in a will. You never. Let me tell you something. What happens so many times, you see, especially you have blended families when there's other kids from previous family. There's because there's fights that happen. You have to be clearly. The worst thing that can happen is you lose someone. Someone passes away. Then all of a sudden, families are totally, he promised me, she promised me this and this. She told me I would get this, my dad. And you have it written down. Because that avoids dissension, that avoids conflict, that avoids families getting torn apart. Money tears people apart, man. I mean, it just, if there's a topic that tears family apart, is money.
And when you think you know someone, when money's involved,
it's challenging. Have that. Even homes, even if you have your home, you have to make sure it automatically doesn't
go to your family,
to even the wife or the husband doesn't transfer. Especially in Florida, you have to make sure that it's written down. It has to be right.
That's why we had to update, because the Florida laws and the different states that you're in are different. When someone passes away, it's different the way they distribute. If you don't have, even if you have a will, there's even fees and taxes and stuff that we're learning about that we may have to adjust our will again. But it's important because since we're blended family, obviously he has his son, blood, and my daughter, right? And then he has our children, right? But in our will, it states that each of our children are to be considered equal. And we had that talk.
Yes.
He's not like, these are my step kids. His son is no. All our kids are considered equal. And that's the way we want it. It could be different for someone else because all our kids get along and we're blessed. We're not one of those families, but we spoke about that. And I was like, everything that's mine is his son's and his daughter, and whatever is his is mine. So it's put on paper. So then, and the kids know. It's not like we did it in a huddle and then God forbid something happens, it's a surprise. No, the kids know.
They know. So even something like as a health proxy, where if someone you need to have the living will help. That's so important to have because
I've been in 34 surgeries. So every single surgery, they ask me, do you have a health proxy? God forbid, I don't come out. I'm in a coma. Him and my mom are the ones, and my daughters are the ones that decide.
You got to have that. It's something you got to have the health. And people don't want to talk about it. Well, you'd never know. Let me tell you, there was, I think in Florida, it was actually in Florida. There was a case in 1990s, Teresiavo, where this lady, she was actually incapacitated and she couldn't, and they were actually gonna
make decisions.
She made a decision whether to pull a plug or not. And guess what? There was a court battle, went to Supreme Court because she told her husband that's what she wanted, but her family, like her mom and dad, did not want to do. So there was a battle and that went for like weeks, Supreme Court, and so that's just devastating. Have a conversation. Who do you want as help?
There was also a case where the husband did not update the will and he got remarried. But it was stated that the ex-wife had yes. So the ex-wife had the decision whether to take him off life support or not.
It's crazy, but those are conversations you have to have together and make sure and work together with the finances. Work is so important. Listen, there's and I'm gonna step on some toes, Liz, but there's a lot of sometimes, and I'll challenge, man. Sometimes they don't want. Well, I'm in charge of the finances. I don't want. I don't want the wife to know I'm in charge. She trusts, and sometimes women but
that's what I'm in charge of.
No. That's the worst thing you can do. Because guess what happens? If something happens, you God forbid, if the other spouse doesn't know how to do anything, doesn't know how to access accounts, doesn't have to do anything.
Passwords.
it defeats the whole purpose. That they don't know how to do anything. How are they gonna manage by themselves? You need to work together towards that. Those days,
that talk I had with my mother.
Those
because
days
my father, as tradition, my father would take care of the bills. My mother was a princess. Everything was paid for. I'm like, Mom, you have to know how to pay a bill. You need to know access to the accounts. You need to know the account numbers. And unfortunately, they're in their age. And now she's like, oh, wait, I got to know. I'm like, yeah, you got to know. Because God forbid something happens to either one of you, you have to continue to pay the bills. And if you don't know them, it's going to be devastating. You can't think straight because you lost your husband. My dad, and now you're here trying to pay bills or trying to figure out passwords and stuff. You gotta
do it together. You're not. It's you have to work together. And I might step on some toes, like wow, but I'm just telling you just the way to work because I've seen bad things happen. I've seen widows that lost their husband. They don't know anything. They don't know what anything is. They don't know what anything is because the husband took care of everything, and they had no idea what was happening. And they had to imagine someone less in the later years trying to figure out how to pay. They don't even know how to pay things. They don't even know how to access things. And they have to figure when they're maybe in their 50s or 60s how to deal with that. That's terrible. And I think that's not, you're not doing a family service. You need to work together. And this is the password. This is how we get in. This is how we do. This is the bills. They need to know. Absolutely.
Wow.
Another topic that I find a lot of couples is their retirement. Is how much are we gonna have to? When I meet families, like, well, I don't know how much he has, how much she has. It's like, to me, that's crazy.
Yes, that's
you
a big
work
one.
together towards it. Think about it. Most families don't have enough money for their retirement. They don't even know. And think about that. It's like for example, you're married. You even know how much your husband or wife makes.
Yes.
To me, that's nuts, right? Or you don't know like how much in the future it's gonna make, right? I did this math. It's the craziest thing, Liz, how people underestimate. Let's say if a husband and wife, right? Let's just hypothetically decide, you know what? We're going to eat in McDonald's. That's what we're going to eat, right? For retirement. This is what we're going to eat. And we're going to eat 3 meals a day, right? $5 a piece, husband and wife, $5.
You know a McDonald's meal is not $5.
But let's just to make the math easy, right? This is what we're going to do, right? $5 a piece, right? Which is $10, right? Which is 3 meals a day. That's $30 a day. $30 a day times 365 days a year is almost $11,000. If you times it by 20 years, that's about 220 years. So that's 220,000 you need to have to eat.
And
not including electricity, all the utilities out. So people underestimate
how much they need. You
need to come together. Husband and wife need to come together and say, let's look at your retirement. We need money for retirement. We need to live. We need to work together. Find out how much money we need to have. How much money we need by the time we retire. Number one, and how much you got to put. Where are you right now? How much you put? How much you have? What's happening?
Or they change jobs and leave money in their jobs.
Former jobs. That's something that it's not like, oh, it's his retirement or her. No, it's together because the income mixed together. The worst thing that can happen, let's say one person is okay, the other person is not, then you figure out it's better to find out early than later on.
Very
true. Time to adjust now. But if you wait till later on when you retire, well, how much money you have? This margin? It's crazy, right? Look at the numbers, right? 50% have less than 10,000 saved for a lot of people. More than 2/5 of baby boomers with no retirement savings. That's a struggle. You work. See, you didn't come together to work to live your life together, build something and your later years have nothing to show for it.
You gotta move in with the kids.
That's drastic, right? See, they talk about we're gonna become the sandwich generation, right? Where we're gonna be taking care of our kids and our parents at the same time.
Yes, definitely. I see it coming. It's true.
No, because our adult children still need us.
Yeah.
And they need our help. If they don't have careers or professions.
Yeah. They
need us. And then we have that stage where our parents start to need us. So then it's like, okay, I'm working for what?
Yeah. And if someone's watching and they're saying, oh, geez, well, I'm already in that space right now. I'm part of that 15% of Americans who don't have not even 10,000 put away. Now's the time to see Bernard. Now's the time to send the email, to stay connected, to sit and do it now. Don't delay.
Put a game plan. It's never too late, babe. You always say this. It's never
too late. There's always the ways to can adjust, you know. And listen, and what's the next step? Number one, get your financial snapshot. Planning for unexpected, save your time, pay off debt. It doesn't have to be tragic. It doesn't have to be. Get together. We help. Even also get together with someone. Get together with that's gonna help you put some things together, right? To show you exactly. Take a snapshot. Like, this is what I'm doing right now. This is where you are right now. This is where you want to go, and this is what we have to get done to make it happen.
To get you to A to
get your A to B. It's so important to have money. Money is especially it hurt. Like we talk about so many families, the major cause, one of the major cause of the causes of divorce is financial, is money. It's money. It's not anything. It's money, because something happens, lack of money or challenges that causes stress and families, causes stress.
Also, we also see people getting divorced after they empty nest.
Yes.
Because they were together for the kids, but then when the kids are out, they're like, I'm out too. But then they can't afford to live separate, so they're roommates. What kind of life is that?
And one thing to do, guys. Okay, make sure do not sleep. Do not put any bills in your room, in your bedroom. Get rid of bills. Do not sleep. Do not sleep. Listen. As a couple, you got to make sure, take all the bills. Don't put it in a dresser when you're sleeping. When you turn around as you're looking at it, get all the bills out the room. Get all the bills out the room. This is your
sanctuary. Your bedroom should be your sanctuary.
Put in a box. Do not put on the table. Do not put. I'm telling you, little things like that. Psychologically, it kind of your subconsciously affects you.
Conversations that are like,
because as soon as you walk in the room, you see a bill there, like, you don't want to be there. You know, it's like it reminds you of, wow, man, I gotta take it. Get rid of it. Get rid of stuff. I'm telling you.
Not get rid of it.
Put another. You gotta deal with it, but just put it somewhere else. You know, make sure that it's not in front of you. And little things like that make a huge difference, and it affects. So you can't sleep at night. You lose sleep over those things. So those things that are so important, that kind of hurts people. So
good. So many great tips here, including that very last one. I don't know, but that might be our little highlight reel later in the week. I mean, there's just so many good things that we've learned here throughout this segment, the second part of marriage and money, and that amazing slide. And again, if anyone has any questions, whether you're watching the replay later, leave your comments, because we're going to get dinged. Hey, somebody left a comment, and Bernard will reach out and definitely answer any of your questions. We're so glad that you've joined us tonight for all of the information. And of course, our special guest, 2 weeks in a row, Miss Alerte herself. We just love you. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing the woman's perspective and the woman's point of view with marriage. And I love that you even have an extra layer, and that's that the two of you have a blended family, and you were able to bring that part in too, because there's so many people who have blended families and they don't know how to cope.
Exactly. Yes.
When it comes to the finances.
Yes, you have to come together. You just gotta have the conversation. It's tough conversations, but they need to have. Avoiding it is not going to make it go away. As a matter of fact, it's going to cause major challenges. It's not even going to fracture your family structure in the future if that's not dealt with in the beginning early enough.
Thank you so much, Bernard. I know you got some stuff coming up even in December here locally, and stay connected to the Facebook page here, because we'll be posting all of those events and those things if you're here local in the Central Florida area. And even as we record certain segments, he'll be able to share that as well. And I'm sure you got some great other topics coming up. What do we got for next week?
Yes, we're gonna kind of talk. We're gonna talk about the investment part. We started talking about that, about different rates of return, how to get the best return on your money. We're gonna talk about like retirements, like what kind of retirement plan should you have. What's a mutual fund? People don't even know what a mutual fund is. Very simple ways for people to understand, ways to have your money grow for you in the future. Because we talked about the returns on your money. Now, well, how do you do it? How do you start? And best ways to kind of look at that perspective and change that, which is very good.
That's going to be great. For people who don't know what mutual funds are.
Yes.
Yeah, all of those things. That'll be great. So join us next week. Next Tuesday, we'll be here again, and for some more information with all things money matters with Bernard. And once again, thank you so much, Eileen, for being with us.
Maybe I'll come back.
Yeah, she'll definitely come back. She'll definitely come back.
Yes, for sure. Have a great night, guys. Thank you. Good night.
Good night, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Army Empire podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. Join us next week for another exciting edition, and until then, keep building your empire.